Matt James is getting closer to finding his wife, and we're recapping all the major moments from week 6 of The Bachelor. Hey guys, welcome back to another shared news from home. We're so excited to talk about this week's episode of The Bachelor. But before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Gabby Gonta, and I'm joined by the lovely Avery Grooms and Mariah Davis today. All right, guys, a lot happened this week. We saw some big names go home and we saw more connections made. So let's get right to the best and worst moments from this week's episode. We started the episode right back in the middle of MJ and Jessenia's feud. So let's talk about how that all went down. Matt came in ahead of the cocktail party to get to the bottom of the feud and spoke to each of the women separately. Both of them defended themselves pretty well. MJ was panicking a little bit, but she says she regained her bad bee energy. Matt, though, ended up trusting Jessenia and gave her the rose, sending MJ home. So we were waiting for this moment. We finally got it from last week's cliffhanger. But when Jessenia came out with the rose and saw all the other girls saw that MJ was the one who went home, they seemed to be pretty happy with this. But do we think that Matt made the right decision in this moment? Avery?
Absolutely. MJ was bugging and just the way she handled the whole Jesenia situation and her input and everything she had to say was just not right. It just rubbed me the wrong way. We talked about this last week. It's just the way she presented herself and what she was trying to preach was just so off by how she was actually acting in her actions. So, love how Jesenia was just like a strong, bold girl in that moment and held her ground. While meanwhile, MJ kind of looked dumb because she was being the petty one and she was calling Jesenia petty. So I'm glad that Matt saw through that and she ended up going home at the end of the day because based off the way she was acting, it was time.
I agree. I remember day one when I first saw MJ, I was like, okay, she's going to be one of my favorites. Like, just something about her seems so charming and just kind of authentic. But I feel like she's got to be surprised looking back now at her behavior because it really was like there's no justifying that. So absolutely, I think Matt made the right call. Um, he's been cleaning house. He's been getting rid of everyone who contributes to a toxic environment and makes things uncomfortable. And I'm sorry, but girl, do you know what it means to preach peace and harmony? Do you even know what those words mean? Because saying that alone is a contradiction. I hope that maybe seeing this now kind of makes her realize, okay, well, I didn't realize that that was how I was like coming at people. Maybe I should work on that. But always giving props to Matt for making the right decisions.
Exactly. Great point. This also resulted in a canceled cocktail party, though, because Matt had to deal with a lot of drama that took up a lot of extra time. And this also made the girls very upset because they were obviously wanting to get some extra time to talk with him before the rose ceremony. But Chris Harrison came in and said, Matt knows what he wants to do. He's made up his mind. So, do we think Matt made the right decision here? Or should he have entertained the girls, let them have a little bit more time with him? Or did it not matter because he knew what he was going to do?
Honestly, at first, I'm thinking, oh, come on, Matt. Like, these girls, all they want is a chance to talk to you, to make them feel like they have at least tried to secure their place in the house. But at the same time, when you know, you know. And the longer, if he were to have persisted with the cocktail party, these girls would have been up super late. If he already knows what his decision is, why waste everybody's time? So I honestly kind of respect the fact that he's just like, I already know what I'm going to do. Let me not waste everybody's time and just get this over with.
I completely agree with you. Although we like to see those scenes, at the end of the day, if he already has his mind made up, like you said, why waste anyone else's time? By that time, everyone's tired. I know it is kind of a sucky feeling when it gets canceled for them, especially since they went through all this prep to be there and waiting. But on this show, people's time gets wasted a lot. So if he could just bite the bullet and be like, I don't want to waste people's time. We don't need to do this, then don't, because he can do
Yeah.
that because he's the bachelor.
Exactly. Out of all the girls, Ryan seemed like she was the most upset about this because she probably didn't have enough time or just felt like she wasn't on stable ground going into the rose ceremony. and she was one of the ones that ended up going home. So it seems like, there was merit to her being worried in that moment. Two other girls that went home, Maggie and Brittany, they were huge names. We saw them, throughout this season making connections with Matt. Brittany was at the center of the escort scandal and all the drama in the house. And so it seems like she just got over that hump and then she went home. So that was kind of sad to see. Right when the cocktail party was canceled, Serena C also ended up being mad at Katie because she was blaming it on her for the fact of bringing up the bullying like in the first place weeks ago. So a lot went down. It was kind of confusing, but what do you guys think? Who are you most upset to see go home from this rose ceremony?
Well, I'm kind of sad with all these girls he sent home. Brittany, I feel like we were finally just starting to see her, and she went through all of that drama and unnecessary BS, and now she has to leave. Like, she didn't really even get to make more of a name for herself, and I feel like she deserved it. And Maggie, it was still too soon. Like, we only got a taste of her. I wanted more. And I know her and
Mhm.
Abigail are like besties. So I hope Abigail's okay without her. They were really cute. I saw a tweet that was like, "Hope Abigail's doing okay without Maggie," and I was just like, "Aw, I
Oh,
love when there's
yeah.
friendships on the show."
Mhm. 100% everything you said. I guess if I had to choose one that I was most upset about, it would be Brittany because I hate that her experience as a whole was so negative. I mean, she just walked in, was immediately torn to shreds, and then she was like, had to pack her bags and go home. Like, that just sucks. So I was most sad to see her go. But again, Maggie and Ryan, they're such sweet individuals. And I mean, I hate to say, like, yeah, they didn't deserve that, but unfortunately, that's the name of the game. I mean, that's kind of what you sign up for.
So we had two one-on-one dates this week. So let's talk about who those lucky girls were. The first was Piper and her carnival date, which looked so fun. She ended up opening up to Matt and getting the rose. What were your guys' thoughts about this date? Because I know I was super excited to see this date with Piper specifically, just because the week before we saw that little makeout moment they had. So I just really wanted to see them unfold the relationship during a one on one because we didn't really get to see that. But I thought this date had like so much depth because there was like happiness, there was tears, and then it still ended on a good note. I feel like they covered a lot. So, what were your guys' thoughts on how this date went?
I would absolutely love a carnival day. Any man out there listening, if you want to impress me, just put together an entire carnival and you've got it. You're the one. I love this was by far my favorite event for a one-on-one date, like favorite thing that they've done. I like Piper, I really do, but comparatively, I don't think that they have as strong of a connection. I did not see any sparks. I didn't think that there was anything wrong with their date. They seemed like they really enjoyed each other's time. But again, I just didn't see any sparks. I wasn't like, okay, wow, I'm feeling the love tonight.
I agree. I don't think the sparks were as great as some of the other girls, but it is tough because when we're this far along in the game, it's just really hard to make up for lost time. Not some of the other girls who had one-on-one dates really early on, like Michelle and Brie. His whole date card was saying it's gonna be worth it. Like, let's make up for lost time, or like the wait would be worth it. And so they had
Mhm.
an amazing date, but I just feel like he's further along with some other girls that didn't make up for fully. But overall, I was just really happy for Piper to have a one-on-one. I know last week she was one of the ones who was just feeling really hurt by seeing Rachel have an amazing time with Matt. So I'm glad that she at least got to be like treated as that princess for an entire day with Matt. And they did connect though, on a deeper level, and she ended up getting the rose, so we're gonna see more of her.
The other one on one of the night was Katie, where she got to prank Tyler C with Matt. It seemed like they had a lot of fun together, but Katie couldn't get out of the friend zone. She was sent home without a rose. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this whole Tyler C prank and then Katie just leaving. I feel like from the start, when I heard they were pranking Tyler C, I knew this wasn't going to be that like romantic of a date. And then we definitely saw that later on in the night. But what do you guys think about how this all ended and her leaving?
I thought the same thing. I thought Katie was going to be perfect for this date, but at the end of the day, you could just tell that they would be like amazing friends out in real life, you know? But not necessarily on a romantic level. We haven't really seen passionate kissing or anything like that. They just seem to have personalities that really mesh. So I think it was a good idea to bring Katie on that date. But then normally when this happens with other contestants, even Matt said it himself, there's a moment like, okay, we need to see if there's a spark, if we can connect romantically. And that usually they figure that out during the night portion of the date. And then that didn't really go there. So it ended up Matt having to make the decision to not choose her, which we haven't seen yet. I don't think anyone else has been sent home on a one-on-one. So it's pretty tough because all the other ones have gone so well. But I don't think this is the end of Katie in Bachelor Nation. So I think all of her fans out there will be okay.
I loved the Tyler C prank. I during quarantine was obsessed with all of their TikToks because I feel like they just feed off one another and it's hilarious. So, on one hand, I'm like that'd be really special, Matt was like, out of all the girls, I think Katie would be the best to bring around my other half. Like they are the same person. So,
Mhm.
it's special in that way, but I totally agree there was no romance involved in that date, so it was almost like he was setting her up for just like to hang out with another friend from the beginning. I'm sad to see Katie go, but I never saw a romantic connection to begin with. I always, as much as I love her, I didn't think, I just thought, eventually she's going to be sent home. I mean, it's inevitable. So I'm sad to see her go. But I also really appreciate that Matt was so upfront and honest about it. It also makes me wonder if he asked Katie out on a one-on-one date because he knew he wasn't feeling like romantically anything for her. And maybe because he has so much respect for her as a person, he wanted to do it separately rather than in front of everyone during a rose ceremony. That's just a
Mhm.
theory. Let's talk about the group date of this week because it seemed like all fun and games until the competition aspect was introduced. Matt and the girls went bowling, and there was a pink team versus the blue team competing for extra time with Matt. The pink team ended up winning, but after showing how upset the blue team was, Chris Harrison showed up to give them a never been done before date card that said they could come back to the date and get more time. So, what do you guys think? Do you think this was fair? Is this something, I mean, I don't think the show has ever done anything like this before. I myself was kind of happy to see it. What do you guys think?
Well, I think now, since we're kind of getting down to like the nitty gritty, the more time you get is so important and so valued. So I feel like it seemed like such a win for these girls when they won because there was only four of them. So they're like, yes, we get to have more time with him since it's only us four, space it out. And I think Chelsea even brought up that point. Like she was one of the four who didn't go on the or hasn't been on a one-on-one yet. So she was super excited for this. And then boom, all the girls came in and it was kind of like, eh. So I feel for them because that is tough. And when you win something, you want to be like, yes, I earned this. And then it kind of just got taken away from them. But also, I feel like he almost thought that he needed time with everyone just because hometowns are in 2 weeks, you know? So, as much time as he could get with everyone, I feel like he was gonna take advantage of, so I don't think it's necessarily fair, but he calls the shots, you know?
I thought the same thing. I can see both sides. If I was on either team, I would just want more time with Matt, no matter what the outcome was. And it's tough because it's like you're going on a fun bowling date and like the winners get more time with Matt, but they kept saying like it doesn't matter if you're a good bowler, like that's not a requirement that Matt has. So it's kind of unfair in that way. If you're just not a good bowler, then you don't get time with him. Like that's kind of messed up. But at the same time, it's nice to just have just only a few people and not have to worry about the competition when you're just trying to fight for time with him. But overall, I think it was a good move because they all ended up getting time to speak with him, right? It wasn't like all the girls who lost like got all the time and the girls who actually won didn't. I'm pretty sure like they all got a little bit. So in the end, I think it balanced it out pretty well.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. I thought it was interesting that Michelle ended up getting the rose. I mean, I am 100% her number one fan in this whole thing. She's got my vote. But because Serena P really opened up with Matt and said those really strong words, I think I'm falling in love with you. Or maybe it was even, I'm falling in love with you. Like, there's no question to it. I kind of expected her to get the rose, but that just goes to show just because you say these big and passionate things doesn't necessarily mean that you're standing out the best. So, not to question the integrity of that statement, but if you're just saying things to advance, it's not always going to work out that way. Really glad that Michelle ended up getting that group date rose.
Another big moment was being blessed with Tyler Cameron's face on our TVs again. So, Tyler Cameron from Hannah Brown's season and well known best friend to Matt James showed up at Nemacolin to play a game of pool and catch up with Matt. Tyler gave Matt some good advice and seemed excited that he might be coming home engaged. So, Tyler is such a fan favorite in Bachelor Nation, and they just had a great time together from the prank to the pool table advice moment. How do we think Matt felt just finally getting some guy time and some guy advice? Or, how much did we love seeing Tyler again?
I think he definitely felt relieved, and just to be in that setting with all these girls, this is an experience unlike no other for him, and just to see his best friend show up, he must feel like this weight lifted off his shoulders. Now he has someone he could vent to, someone who could give him advice. And I just liked it because we got to see that side of Matt, like the side he is with his guy best friend. And that as a girl, that when you're dating someone, you also want to see how they act around their friends. And the girls didn't get to see that, but as viewers, we did. So I liked it. He's quirkier around it. And I want to see more of that Matt with the girls now.
I love that Matt got to spend some time with Tyler because that's like his other half. And I don't know what the rules are as far as if you're the bachelor or the bachelorette, if you can have your phone and just call up your friends and family whenever you want. But if that's not the case, which I don't think it is, I would imagine it's really nice to just have someone close to you that you can finally confide in. You really only have like producers and crew that you can really talk to about how you're feeling. So someone who is as close to Matt as Tyler, he can finally just like lay it all out there. I'm willing to bet there were some strong conversations that they got to exchange with one another that we didn't get to see, which whatever. I mean, that's upsetting, but I get it, privacy and whatnot. So I love that they got to spend time together. And I agree, Avery. I love that they kind of just fuel off of each other. It shows a really quirky side of Matt. He really lets loose. And it also makes me notice like maybe he's a little uptight around the girls. Like he still seems like lively and fun, but not 100% comfortable or 100% himself. So maybe seeing Tyler is going to be a really big refresher and he'll start feeling a little bit more comfortable during the process.
I think so too. I think it's partly that Matt is obviously trying to impress these girls and like be the best version of himself. Whereas when he's
Mhm.
just hanging with Tyler, it's like he's probably seen him do the craziest stuff. So he's not trying to impress him anymore. So hopefully, yeah, you're right, Mariah, that he can just like strip back even more layers and we can get to more of the real Matt. But a follow up question, if Tyler was to become the bachelor or just get with, in touch with any of the girls from Matt's season, who would you ship, as one of Matt's contestants for dating Tyler?
I honestly feel like he would really like Brie.
I was just gonna say Brie. I could see that. But like for some reason, no one else in my mind seems like that could even work. I don't know.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of Matt's
Okay.
front runners and I don't yeah, I feel like Brie, but I don't really know why I think Brie. I just think there would be an initial really strong attraction. And I remember Tyler being like really smooth and suave and she's kind of the same way, you know?
Yeah,
I
and
mean, we
Bree's
could.
like really witty, and I feel like they both have that like umph to them. I could see them being a match, but out of everyone else, I no one really comes to mind. Maybe no, not Katie. Oh no, Tyler's a tough one.
Yeah, he is. He's an onion. He's got too many layers.
Too many layers.
Very true. I
All
would think
right.
maybe Abigail, just
I
because
can see
she's like
that.
Okay.
really sweet,
Yeah.
but also fun and quirky. Maybe.
Mhm. Or Brittany. She just got sent home though, but maybe Brittany cuz she needs a shot. She didn't get a chance. There was quite an awkward moment this episode, so let's talk about the Serena C and Katie confrontation. Serena C goes to Katie's room to talk with her more about why she was upset, while Katie thought she was actually coming to apologize. Things escalated between these two, and they started arguing so loud the rest of the house could hear them. So, what's going on with this feud? Is Serena C the villain now? Because out of nowhere, we thought all the problems were gone, and then boom, Serena C wants to question Katie. And I feel like it was just coming from a place of her not feeling that great about herself because it was kind of just out of nowhere and unnecessary, and almost like, why are we still doing this? So, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this little feud. Do you think it was necessary? Do you think Katie handled it well? Do you understand Serena's approach?
I do not understand what Serena was thinking. I don't think any of this was necessary. I don't want to already cast her out as the villain. But if she keeps going at it the way she is, then yeah, she's going to get labeled the villain in my book. I just don't think that was necessary at all. And I 100% stand behind Katie. I know I'm a little biased, but I honestly feel like Katie is the most reasonable and logical person that, well, she's not in the house anymore. That's so sad, but who was in the house. So this feud was ridiculous. I honestly was kind of expecting Serena to go apologize too, but we're not in a perfect world. We're in the Bachelor world. So naturally that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's tough because as soon as MJ went home, it was pretty much drama free. So I feel like either the producers or the girls had to just kind of create something that wasn't there, or maybe Serena was actually mad at Katie about all of this. I think a lot of them were just frustrated that the cocktail party was canceled, and
Mhm.
Serena was probably insecure about the amount of time she had with Matt that week and was afraid she was going home. So then she just sort of tried to take it out on somebody else. I'm confused about why she like went to her room to just talk about it more. Maybe because she just had more to say and thought that Katie was going to back down. But of course, we know that wasn't going to happen from her perspective. But I do think Katie was just standing her ground. And she said multiple times, like, I brought things up to Matt because this was a toxic environment, but I never said anybody's names. I let him like take the reins and handle that, which in the past, contestants who do say other people's names, that is what really starts to bring them down or just put an arrow or a target on their back. So I think Katie was in the right in that aspect, but it's just tough. Anytime you get involved in drama, all eyes are going to be on you. So I think that's why this escalated so much.
Last but not least, the major shakeup in this week's episode and in the entire season is the arrival of Bachelor alum Heather Martin. Heather showed up out of nowhere in a minivan, no less, and asked Chris Harrison if she could meet Matt after being encouraged to do so by her best friend and former bachelorette, Hannah Brown. They showed several vlog videos of Heather quarantining, waiting to meet Matt, which I honestly thought it was cute at first. Like the first one, I was like, oh, she's starting to get a little stir crazy. And then she started to balance the pizza box on her head, and it just seemed really rehearsed, like, oh, I'm gonna look so cute and like fun in this video. It didn't seem, I don't know. I was just like, girl, what are you doing? Chill out, watch a movie.
Mhm.
So what do you guys think
Yeah.
about Heather's arrival? Do we think that the whole thing was staged or authentic? Her rolling up in the minivan and him saying, nobody can come in, but she still asks, well, can I still come in? That doesn't make any sense. So do you guys think this was staged? Or do you think maybe someone dropped the address and she just rolled up?
I don't know. It's really tough to tell. I mean, it sure seems like everything was just too perfect. Her driving up to the gate and the guard guy not even knowing who Chris Harrison was. He was like, "Oh, someone for Harrison." And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
This all seems like a bit much. I feel like there's so much that goes into being on the show that Heather must have called the producer and like figured everything out, and because I'm pretty sure she lives in California and this is not in California. So I love that they tried to make it seem spur of the moment and like this amazing shakeup of the season, but I really don't think it was that in the end.
No, they tried so hard to make this look authentic, and it just looked so fake, from like the mini vlogs to the rolling up in the minivan. It's like, this is not some casual thing. You don't just drive up and get on the show. We all know this. And it was just, I don't know, just the edits sometimes get me because like we could see right through this. It was almost like too cliche for me. I would have liked like more truth to it. But I mean, it was cute. It's just like they didn't have to do all that. Like we've seen enough. They didn't have to go that far. Especially with the minivan, like why? But I don't know. I like Heather. I know she probably didn't have much say in this. It was probably all the producers and their idea on how she's gonna come on and what she's gonna do, but it's just kind of funny how that played out.
Yeah, I think it would have been a shock that Heather showed up anyways, even if it was like planned and they were bringing her out and like
Yeah.
flying her out and like having her stay in quarantine rather than making this seem like it was a whole thing that was just Chris was caught off guard when it really wasn't. So it was a funny thing that they ended up doing, but whatever.
So, after what seemed like a few days of waiting, Heather finally got her chance to meet Matt at the final cocktail party. The other women naturally seemed so happy that there were only 10 other girls left. They finally have more time that they could potentially spend with Matt, and lo and behold, Heather walked in the door. So, naturally, nobody was absolutely thrilled to see her. Matt bursts out laughing, which he has the best and most contagious laugh ever, and they begin their conversation. We're left on a cliffhanger for next week. We have no idea what's going to happen, but the promos are intense. It looks like the girls are just immediately their claws are out, and Heather is not equipped for that kind of drama. So, needless to say, the other girls are upset. What do you guys think is going to happen next? Do we think Heather is not going to advance past that night? Do we think it's going to be Matt's decision, or is she going to be like, you know what, I wanted to meet you, but after the environment in this house, I'm out of here?
Well, whatever happens next, I'm just happy something's happening because I feel like this Heather thing was dragged out for so long and we still didn't even really get to see it unfold this episode. So they better blow my mind next week. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, I mean, no, it's gonna be bad. I feel like it's gonna be bad for her, knowing the girls, knowing the drama, and coming in, especially at this point of in time with this group of girls. It's not gonna end well. And I think Matt's gonna see that and if there isn't a connection, I think he's just gonna end it there and send her home and do her the favor so she doesn't have to put up with any of this. But what
Mhm.
an odd time to come in and like the whole dynamic of the group of girls and the fact that like they had the audacity to add someone else after all this drama. Like we saw how it went when the four other girls showed up. That was horrible. So good luck to Heather, sweet girl. But I'm scared for her.
Me too. I think Heather is just going to be so shocked about the house that she's coming into. It's been one of the craziest on the show so far. I think Matt is going to be flattered at first and excited to talk with Heather and maybe see if there's a spark or connection. But I just really don't think like it's going to be as strong as some of the other girls because at this point we're so far in the game just meeting someone 6 weeks in like it better be love at first sight or it's probably not going to work out. So I think for that reason, she's going to go home, if not immediately, next week or just really soon. So unfortunate for her. If she would have came for week one, it might have been a different story, but he's just so far along in the process and it's going to mess up his head, honestly, going forward with a lot of the other connections that he has. All right, you guys, that is all we have for our Bachelor Week 6 recap. But of course, we want to know your thoughts. So let us know down in the comments. What did you think of Heather showing up? Did you think it was totally staged or real? Are they going to end up having a connection or do you think Heather's going home? Let us know. Were you team Jessenia or team MJ? So much in this episode, but let us know all of your thoughts. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to our channel and ring the bell because we'll be back with more Bachelor videos next week. I'm your host, Gabby Gonta, and I was joined by Avery Grooms and Mariah Davis today. You can follow us at our social handles on the screen right now. Come say hi. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.